Welcome back to an absolutely thrilling installment of Absolute Weird Science. I'm worried about Peacemaker Eric Shea.
And I'm Jim Warner.
And this is episode number 12.
Yeah, episode 12. I thought you were going to say something more. I don't know what's going on. I think I also started the stream a little late. They may not have heard the whole song. Holy moly, Eric. I'll never get a hang of it. How many episodes do we have of our normal show? And I don't get the hang of that either. Here we go, and off to the absolute universe we are, and thanks everybody who are joining us live on YouTube. We mention it all the time, but we do record this live on YouTube at 7:15 Eastern Standard Time every Friday night that there is a absolute book, and of course there is an absolute book this week, and again,
just a little delayed.
Yeah, a little delayed. And when we get to this, I was worried about, getting too much krypton. We do not get that, though.
No.
I'm sure.
Where's that krypton at?
Yeah, I'm asking for it now. I'm telling you, and this one it threw me off. And because of that delay, I didn't realize until after reading it the second time, thinking, oh yeah, we had a really cool cliffhanger for last issue. And is this a trend? Is this something that these books are going to do, is set up really cool cliffhangers to then just leave them on the shelf and just nonsense
Look,
happen?
Everybody, we had a really cool cliffhanger with Martha Kent talking about her angel as she's dying in a nursing home. What are we going to do next? Well, Peacemaker's there, and he's having some problems.
Yeah, he's having some issues. And so when you had the deal, and what we're talking about as well is in Batman, where Batman ends up, is he going to take the money from Black Mask? Is he not? Whatever. That's one thing. That's the idea of, like, the big thing is, will he do it? Because that would be odd for a Batman, but it could be good, whatever. But that cliffhanger last issue of this for Superman, that is huge. Like, the idea of so many things of what this could be and what it means. Not getting a ton of Superman in the book so far. I was so excited for that. And then we get to this. We don't get a lot of Superman in this either. So It's a really, really
not a lot of Krypton, not a lot of Superman. But you get a lot of Lois Lane, some Peacemaker, and the idea that the people of all of these, villages, these countries that Superman has helped out, all they want is his rage to come crashing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the weirdest thing, is that they really just want to get blood and guts, right?
He's not an angel come to save everybody. He is the wrath and vengeance of these people scorned.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Now, what you also get is a Lois that I'm not so sure I like, but we'll get into this. You give us the credits and we'll jump into it.
Absolute Superman number 4, written by Jason Aaron with art by Rafa Sandoval, Ulysses Areola, and Becca Carey. And we start this issue off with a little bit too much in my mind of Lois going through all these people that Superman has saved and helped over his time on Earth, through all these different countries and villages, as I said before, just trying to get an idea of he did this for you, he saved you here, he liberated your people here. Hey, how can I find this guy? And it's even the idea that she's going to take the law into her own hands a little bit. Not even the law, just the idea where she works for Lazarus Corp, and the Lazarus Corp have their peacemakers. And one of the people that she's interviewing, she realizes, has been slashed across the face brutally. So she decides, we cannot let this stand, me being this absolute agent Lois Lane that I am. So I'm going to go to this agent Crenshaw, who's a peacemaker, and I'm going to break his goddamn hand that he stabbed your face with.
Yeah, and so I get that. Now, here's the weird play of it. Two things remind me of Tom King. Obviously, the 9-panel grid, which drives me nuts now. It's something that I don't like. And when it's just talking heads, it gets kind of boring. Like you said, it's a little overdone in it. But once Lois ends up finding out, who ended up hurting you, she goes a little too far. I mean, it becomes a deal of, is this a tough woman, or is this an insane? Because she comes off as insane to me, where she even, pretty much jams her baton in the guy's mouth and then, sets it off. I'm like, that's a little over the top.
Sanity in this insane.
Yeah, I don't think this is it. I don't think this is sane. I mean, she ends up where she also breaks all of his fingers. She ends up, like I said, pretty much making him fillet the baton. I mean, it's really over the top. And then her just walk around, you're under arrest. Well, who's going to arrest you? I mean, who's watching the Watchmen here? It's so crazy with that.
She is.
No, thank you. But is she? Because even in that, I'm not so sure. And this is what gets me is I don't know enough about the Lazarus Corporation or how the Peacemakers are involved and what she actually is in the whole thing to actually know, like, is she so much in charge that she could do whatever she wants? Is she just doing because she goes against protocol a lot already?
Peacemaker grunts. She's an agent.
Well, she is an agent of chaos. I'm telling you, just the idea, she is so over the top with that. I think that it was a little too much. I don't really like Lois here doing that. Now, I'm wondering if people feel the same, but I thought it was just over the top. I get Peacemakers are bad. But boy, she's maybe worse. I don't know. Just because the guy
you get the idea, because this is Peacemaker Crenshaw. Even later on, when you have Peacemaker, Smith, the actual Peacemaker that we would know and love from the main continuity, Christopher Smith. He is trying to talk to the Brainiac AI about like a therapy session about what went down when he faced off Superman, and he's like, I waved my gun at them, like, and your gun misfired and it went off. Thankfully, because of your skilled training, nobody was hurt. It's like, no, I just missed. I just wanted to shoot everybody because they were laughing at me. It just seems that, Brainiac, like the AI system, wants complete and total chaos. He wants these people to just be killing machines, whether they're right or wrong in this matter.
And the thing, I think it's also
he's encouraging
again,
it.
I don't think that he's encouraging it. I think that the play that I got is that what Brainiac's doing is he doesn't get the idea of what real therapy is and can't accept that these people are having problems. So it's like if I say, here's the deal. We start each week's podcast and I say to you, I'm not feeling well. And you go, oh, what's it? Like, but then you just like push it away. So I'm like, okay, I guess he doesn't want to help me with my hopes and fears. So that's what he's like.
Every week for 10 years, you're telling me the small talk where he has to start out where
and that's the thing.
Well, I'm tired.
For one time, I want you to just say, are you okay, buddy? Are you okay? It never happens. You're the Brainiac of this situation. And I think that it's one of those, like, does not compute the idea of having, PTSD. I don't think, because as we see, I don't think that it's trying to say like, oh, I'm going to manipulate you. I think it's more of the idea that the AI knows one thing. And the one thing is, if you miss, it's because something went wrong in the misfiring. When he's like, no, I miss, I need help, whatever. No, you don't, get going here. And it just makes it feel like Brainiac is also, and I think it's trying to make you feel a little sorry for some of these Peacemakers as if they don't really want to do this, but they're overworked, underpaid, and they have some mental problems that aren't being looked at. But this is the thing, too, in this issue where I said that I'm not really digging Lois in particular because of just how over the top she is. I know that what they're playing is, and what they're going to play is something that we talk about all the time and it drives us nuts. Lois is going to learn better through, she's going to start to care because of Superman, but that will only get me to where I originally want Lois, but we'll see how it goes.
Well,
but
even
really,
the idea of where you want these characters to be, you have to understand this is a world that is built without hope in its freaking like premise.
Now,
these characters are a lot more dangerous, a lot darker than anything that you've recognized these characters to be before.
Well, the idea of having no hope is beyond the fact of putting a baton in a guy's mouth. Like that goes to personal deal. Like I could sit there and say, man, this world has no hope, so I am a, Debbie Downer, and I always tell you that I don't feel good or whatever. But to go as far as to just start shoving batons in the things, it just felt too much. It felt over the top for me for no real reason. But when you go, I think that
he cut that poor Egyptian lady's face all up for no reason, except for he wanted to.
And she does arrest him afterwards, correct? That's what I'm saying. She arrests him for what he did. You don't have to then jam a baton in his mouth, light it up, and then break his fingers. That's a little over the top. It really felt a little bit too over the top
too good for that piece of crap.
Well, in that but again, what it's supposed to, I guess, show is Lois is over the top. That's what you get. Now, in that though, what have we learned? We're 4 issues in. We really haven't learned anything about Superman, right? We really don't know a lot about Superman. You know what seems to be the big play of this? The one thing I've learned in this book, AI kind of sucks. That's what it seems to be.
Except for Sol.
Well, Sol's okay, but who knows? I don't know, because the AI system on Krypton That was Clark didn't like that, or Kal, he didn't like that. And then now with the Brainiac, Lois doesn't like it. It's like every time there's that. But you said Soul's there, but are we supposed to start worrying about Soul as well?
Even the idea where we have the Brainiac AI system that Lazarus Corp uses for their debriefs, their write-ups, anything they need to do, even personal therapy sessions within the corporation. But it seems like I wouldn't consider Brainiac the clue, and that I know I don't know how he's going to be portrayed in this, because all we ever get to see is the back of his head sitting in a chair like he's Dr. Claw or some shit.
Back of his head, sexy. Okay.
But the idea is like he's not artificial intelligence. He's just acting as this for his own means.
Again, though, I think that it's supposed to be like, don't trust the system, and like, that's fine. But I really, at this point, well, you would. I might too. But the idea, though, 4 issues in, of the other books, we kind of get the characters. This, we're not really getting in the here and now a lot of Superman. It continues because this is a Lois issue. And again, I think it's supposed to show that Lois is obsessed, but also over the top.
You're right, it is a Lois issue, but for some reason I was just really stuck on the idea of, Christopher Smith, the Peacemaker, and like him being forced to go back out in the field, even though he doesn't want to. He knows that he's wrong for the job. He's about to snap because of the PTSD.
Yeah, he wants to have time off. I mean, this guy just wants to go, right?
Set off by people laughing at him to the point where he does the whole Peacemaker thing. I'm willing to sacrifice all, kill any man, woman, child for the cause of peace. He is all about this, but the idea that he just kind of blacks out and just starts blasting shit away. He'll kill everybody, and he should not be on the field. And I'm like, again, it is a Lois Lane issue. You even get to see General Lane, the idea that he's lost his legs thanks to the Omega Men of this world. Again, we get a bunch of Omega Men in this, but for some reason, I was just so focused on the idea of Peacemaker seeming to be what I think is going to be the big antagonist for Superman going forward.
But again, which one? Because Crenshaw's one thing, then you get another guy. It's just the whole system.
I just mean the idea. You have all these Peacemakers, but the one who stands out, like Crenshaw, he's under arrest, but the one that we're really focused on is Christopher Smith, but again, actual Peacemaker.
The way of saying that it's over, like he legit doesn't want to be in the field, doesn't think he should. He's forced back in by Brainiac, and then does what he does because of what Superman does to him. It's a weird play because, again, at the beginning, he's like, and he's repeating things, and they're like, you okay, dude? Like, hey, Smith, what's up? Get your head in the game. But he's not good. And then when he gets frozen by Superman, then and they're taunting him while he's frozen. I'm like, you're poking the bear, right? And that's what he can't stand. So again, when this happens and what Lois knows and what Superman knows, they kind of just leave him to thaw out to then just blast everybody.
Well, that's the thing.
And that's over the top.
They don't know Christopher Smith. We get the inside track because of him talking to the Brainiac AI during his therapy session of what he's going through, where his mindset is. But the idea that he comes on the scene, even though he's not supposed to, Lois doesn't want the Peacemakers there because she wants to be able to confront Superman and pretty much talk to him like one-on-one without Lazarus Corp or the Peacemakers getting in the way because it's just going to drive him off. They end up showing up because they hear shots fired. They're not supposed to be there. She's ordered them to stand down. He flies off after freezing them, and everybody just starts laughing at him. So, unbeknownst to them, they are setting him off again for something they don't understand.
They are, but what I'm going to tell you is that Lois in this issue has fully demonstrated that she thinks that the Peacemakers are pieces of shit. She ends up batoning a guy in the mouth. They end up freezing him and then leaving them amongst the deal. You might want to just maybe get the people to leave at one point because of what some other, not Smith, but some other Peacemakers have done. Now you know that they are triggered because of Superman, and maybe you should say, hey, everybody, get out of here. Like, don't be around when they thaw out. They're already on edge. Not that she knows about Smith, but she knows about Crenshaw, and it seems like this is probably something that goes on the reg, as the kids say. So you end up where maybe they should have done something. And again, I don't think that the Brainiac AI is pushing in the way of you have to do this. It's just not letting them calm down. It's not in the deal. It's not, in my mind, it just does not understand.
They have not passed an actual psych eval to
that's what I think. I don't think that there is a psych eval. So when they end up having this, it's not in the program. It's not in the thing.
I think there is just the idea that whoever the Lazarus Corp is, whether the Brainiac is the actual entity behind Lazarus Corp or it's just pretending to be this AI system that's infiltrated it, not even the Lazarus Corp, but even seems like the U.S. military as a whole, possibly. But the idea, like, it is there and it is just pushing this whole thing. Like, okay, we're going to have a psych eval for everybody, and Brainiac just pushes that shit through. Everybody is okay.
But again, the thing that I get is the idea, if Brainiac wants to push things more, it could just tell them to do things. It could end up doing it's where they come to say, I need time off. And it's like, no, you don't get time off because that doesn't compute. You can't have a mental issue because there's no mental issues. That's not anything where did go. And again, this could be that if it's me, I might be upset. I might not do anything, or I may. He gets pushed because of what happens. But even when Lois is saying the idea of like non-lethal rounds, okay, lethal rounds, it just ends up, I don't think it understands being nice. I think that it, what makes you hurt so much, Brainiac? Again, but the agenda is weird because if you kill everybody, then you don't have anybody to work for you. Like, it's actually like the things that are going on doesn't seem to be an agenda that would be great for the Lazarus Corporation. You would want to hide things and whatnot. I think that it just does not understand the idea of being nice or whatnot. Because again,
unless it just wants to create chaos.
But why would you, when you're the Lazarus Corporation that actually makes money off of these people, you make money off of them mining, you make money, like,
well, obviously,
I don't think
Brainiac's not going to care about money.
Well, again, but this is the Lazarus Corporation that needs to be going forward with it. I just think that, and if anything, I think he's a loose cannon. They just keep saying, oh man, this thing's glitching a lot. Brainiac might be doing that, but I don't think it's the Lazarus Corporation that would benefit by just having, like, it would be one thing if they're just a police force and they're charged, hey, if we cause chaos, then we get called in, but they are a corporate. But again, we don't know. I don't really know what the Lazarus Corporation really does.
No, we got some mining shit across.
Yeah, we have mining stuff, but it's weird. We don't know everything going. I think that we're missing a lot of info.
We haven't even seen really America yet, and where like, as far as we know that there might be stationed from.
Yeah, and even then, like, what is the idea of them being in Brazil and causing problems, or Africa,
Egypt,
or whatever,
Egypt,
all these things? Yeah. So, like, what is it? And that's where I think this book is starting to really fall behind the other two. Now, Wonder Woman. I know the Tetrasite.
That Ford Killer?
Yeah, the Ford Killer. But in that's a very, like, insular book. You're just dealing with Wonder Woman. So you could do... This book is already... It's adding a lot, but not giving you much. It's like the Lazarus Corporation. And then even on top, the idea of Lazarus Corporation... And then on top of that, the Peacemakers that are part of that as a police... And the Mega Men thrown in this. And that happens. I'm like... All right, then you have Superman, and what happened with Krypton, and then also
before you get Superman, you also get General Lane, who is retired because he lost his legs, possibly to Omega Prime.
Yeah, and really, what happens here is you realize that he probably will start running in the Olympics and murder his wife. This is what happens to anybody with robot legs. You can't trust them. Oh my God! But again, in that, the differences, whatnot. He seems very similar. Like, he is one of the ones who hasn't really changed, right?
He's alive.
Well, he is alive, but and also a little shorter, as old Omega Prime says, which is pretty funny. But he is kind of Lane, General Lane.
He's General Lane.
And so what you get here in my mind is, in the differences here on this absolute deal, is that Lois has really learned, she has learned from him in the regular deal, but she's tough in a different way. This is more, I'm going to follow my father's footsteps, be militaristic kind of deal. And it feels, really, you're not following anything like that. Watch out for them cyborg legs. Well, if you had these cyborg legs, would you ever take them off? I mean, I know that at points you'd have to, but he's like sitting there. Looks like the middle of the day. Why doesn't he have his legs on? Why do he have to go to
my legs to sit down?
Why do you have to go to the refrigerator? I'd put them on. I'd have pants over it so nobody knows. Kind of sexy on that profile. I'm like, look at you, you sexy cyborg leg bastard. But you end up where he's like, you need the detail. It's very General Lane-esque. And she's kind of fighting and saying, you don't understand. This Superman, he's pretty super. I mean, he's so super that he's super, and I want to get near him and all this. And he just starts yelling, you go Hiroshima on that.
But did you ever hear the Omega Men also in that area? They done took your daddy's legs. Yeah. They also talk about freedom and wanting to save people and all those things, but also they're terrorists, and you can't trust any of these people.
Yeah, because they took his legs.
Which is funny, because
but they can't take his freedom, Eric.
Sure can't. You have the idea of the Omega Men of this universe. So, they are freedom fighters / terrorists. Wherever you lean on this whole thing, they want to, pretty much take down a Lazarus Corp, rage against the machine, as you will. And one of the cool things we get to see in here is the idea that you raise through, Greek letters, stuff like that, Alpha, Beta, eventually getting to Omega. But Alpha, this newest recruit that they have, is trying to talk to Agent Lane, trying to get her on their side, trying to talk to them about how Lazarus Corp is no good. We're actually doing things for the better of mankind here. And we do get to find out that this new recruit of Omega Men is Jimmy Olsen Alpha.
It is funny because, like, the minute that you see, you know it's Jimmy, right? And then at one point they're like, "Hey,
you say that. I didn't realize it until he took a snapshot of Superman.
he's got red hair. He's walking around, and then they're like, "Hey, Olsen," and he goes, "Call me Jimmy." Now, is that supposed to be like, "Oh my God"? It's not the other Olsen. It's Jimmy Olsen. And then he took the picture. But when you have this deal going and you have Lois, hey, stand down, Peacemakers, I'm going to go. And she's really, got a hard on to go find Superman. And what happens is through that 9-panel grid, at first she's asking questions. They're not going to respond. She says, "Trust me, I have all the good intentions, but you don't trust me because you don't know me. You will come to know me." But then when they talk back to her, they say, "Yeah, you're kind of obsessed, right?" He does that. He kind of gets to you. You want to go to sleep so you can dreams of the Superman.
You were struck by lightning.
Oh my goodness! And
now you're chasing the storm.
Yeah, so she ends up where she's going to go off, and you see that Omega Men are coming. Now, when we get this again, it's another thing added in that I don't know. There's some things.
It's a weird thing.
I wanted to really see the Omega Men, right? And I thought it'd be exciting as it's presented here. I'm not that excited,
Primus,
right?
I'm telling you, you have some nanotech masks that go over their face. The Omega Prime has like a laser sword situation or a laser spear thing that she has that she cuts people's legs off with, apparently. But you don't have a good idea of the Omega Man, their organization, how organized they are with the organization. Yeah. Just the idea that Lazarus Corp bad, and we're going to kill anybody who's in the Lazarus Corp.
And they probably
even, get Superman on our side to do it.
And they could probably play a hell of a base since they're Primus.
Maybe.
But you end up where all this going down, it just ends up like, again,
we are stretching ourselves too thin.
We are, and we still aren't done crypting. That's the thing.
But the thing is, it's a problem that we are stretched this thin, introducing all of these characters, and you only get pretty much a few panels of actual Superman in the Absolute Superman book. But I will give it this: this is the first Absolute book to do the world building that nobody else is doing.
Well, it is doing that, but maybe it's too soon. Maybe we have to know the characters first. But when you introduce the Lazarus Corp, you need to go worldwide to kind of do that. But even this, Lois is going worldwide. Like, she's taking it to the streets here, and it never felt like she did. It just kind of seems
that's funny
because
it doesn't. I feel like the Lazarus Corp are in one place, and all she's doing is like bringing these people to her, and like interrogating them one by one.
But at one point they do even mention like, "Oh, you traveled the whole world," and you don't really get that feeling.
No, you
but
don't.
With the
what
thing,
we see
though,
is she travels down one street and is confronted
that's what
by
I
the
thought.
Omega Men and eventually Superman.
I swear to God, what I thought was it's a couple streets, but it's like, oh, we're now in Little China. We're here and there. Like, it was that, but they're even speaking other languages and they say it. But the weird thing about it is not weird, but say that Wonder Woman has introduced Circe, Hecate. We had Minerva, and also Etta Candy. And so when you introduce these people, there's differences, but they're more like, okay, I get it. It's Barbara Minerva she's upset. It's enough that you don't need to go too detailed to get the idea. Then later you can add the subtle details to make it different.
Agreed.
And this, everything's so different. So when you do introduce them, you're like Lazarus Corporation, just the name. Okay, we got the Peacemakers. The Mega Men. Everything's different.
It feels like in an Absolute Wonder Woman is Wonder Woman. Everybody else feels pretty much like what you expect to know for now. So we set ourselves on a decent basis to move forward with see what the changes really are.
And so when you get that, you get the solid foundation of it's Etta. We kind of get it. Okay, let's see what's different.
This is New 52 in your face.
Yeah, this is in your face of like Omega Men come. Oh, that's cool. Oh, this is nothing like I know. So I'm not confused. I want to know more. I'm intrigued, but I'm starting to get frustrated, especially where it almost feels like, and I don't think he's left things behind, but it feels like he might have just the idea. And then on top of that, that last cliffhanger, that really seems like that could set everything on its ear. The idea, is there more Kryptonians here? Did they make it to the planet? Was that, as you said, maybe something went wrong in the cryo deal and they aged? Or is it just somehow Martha? I don't know. But it could change everything.
No information. It could. And the thing is, that is our only pretty much link to the Superman that we know, besides for a Krypton aspect to it. Yeah, you have other characters here, but they're not themselves as you know them. Martha Kent being a devout mother to what seems like Kal-El at this point in time, talking about her angel back to me. Yeah. That is a huge thing that you want to see more of. And the worst part is we're not seeing more of that. We're not even seeing more of Krypton, which I love.
I don't love the Krypton, but I'd rather have it than this issue because of how it's presented. does feel like a bit of it feels like too much. It's not an info dump. It's just more of a dump. It ends up like Omega Men. The idea
you're not getting a lot of info. You're just
no,
getting a lot of things dumped
getting
on
a lot
you.
of dump.
Info-wise.
That's what I'm saying. It's like taking a dump. You end up where it's like some of the things, though, the thing with the Peacemakers, I kind of like that angle. I like the angle of let's see what's going on. And is it that Brainiac has an agenda? Is he just pushing them? Doesn't he? That's interesting. But the whole Lazarus
I'm waiting to see
Corporation,
too the idea, because you have Christopher Smith, the Peacemaker that we know from our own continuity, who, like, you know, he's on edge. He tried to fire his gun at like civilians just for laughing at him. He ended up missing because his hands were shaking so bad. And when he is, you know, shamed this time around by Superman, he kills all of these people during a blackout after he thaws out from a freeze breath. So the idea where he's going to do, like, when he goes back next time with how, like, you know, on the edge he is, actually past the edge for how the murder he has committed at this point, because nobody seems to have a problem with the fact that he's just murdering. Yeah, you've created a shitstorm for us.
That's what it kind of is. Yeah,
paperwork in my mind, but the idea when he's doing this, I could actually see this Christopher Smith of this universe becoming like a change into a Metallo, the ultimate weapon for Lazarus Corp, because of the way his mindset is against the absolute Superman.
Yeah, it's just, again, though, I don't know, because he seems to just be triggered by people laughing, and Superman wasn't laughing, but made him look like a fool. But even there, when you have the Omega Man and you end up where Lois, at one point Jimmy's there, and it almost feels like he's being tested here. It's like, hey, first day on the job, you do this. And he ends up, he says it twice, I sense the good in the Lois Lanes. I can tell that she, you know, wants to do this. In the meantime, the Omega Men are doing this, seemingly trying to get Superman on their side, but definitely doing stuff that Superman wouldn't want to do, because when you get this, Omega Prime says, hey, you know, what is Jimmy? You didn't take the shot. You should have killed her. And he's like, no, I sense good in her. Like, they're just murderous, but I don't know what they're doing.
You have this situation with Lois Lane. She doesn't want to back up and wants to keep the Peacemakers at base so she can do her job of fighting Superman. Jimmy Olsen, he wants the Omega Men to stay at base so he can try to change the heart of Lois Lane to get her off the Lazarus Corp side and onto the Omega Man side. But everybody keeps jumping the gun here because it's the absolute universe and they're just drawn to killing.
Just everybody wants to kill. It's just weird. It's just the whole weird deal of everything getting thrown at you. And again, you get the Omega Men, and this Omega Prime seems to be the one that possibly took General Lane, Lois's dad's legs, and turned him into a cyborg killer. But you end up
didn't just disarm him.
Yeah, and really dislegged him. He's half the man he used to be, Eric. And and even that's like, hey, you know, he's not running around much anymore. He does. It's just ends up where you just want to know what's going on. What's that?
The weirdest part about General Lane not having legs in this, because when you see him talking to Lois on the phone, he has he's sitting in a wheelchair. But for some reason, the way it was drawn, I looked at this panel and said, "You're faking for some reason."
You thought that he was faking.
Like the way it is, you have the perspective where he has his, like, you know, pant legs stopped right at the knees where his legs would have been taken, right? His lower legs. But for some reason, the shadows behind it, I thought he had his legs tucked up underneath the chair then. I don't know why, but it is stuck in my head.
Man, I just like when he's walking and he's on the beach, and these are Lazarus legs, you see. That seems to be something of a deal. But also he says, just take care of yourself out there, darling. And I'm like, oh, look at him with the darling. I don't know why that made me laugh. It ends up like he's like some country singer or something, but he ends up as a mega terrorist, and that's the setup. Who's good, who's bad? It seems like everybody's bad. Everybody's
bad except for Superman, Jimmy, and Lois Lane.
And Jimmy seems like he's one of those that he just has, like, he might be too good for his own good, but it seems like
especially with the crew he's hanging with.
Yeah, he'll hook up with it. But I want to, like you said, though, again, it's Omega Men. That's fine. Jimmy's a new recruit. Is there others? Like, I don't think it was Omega Man before Jimmy. But what's the organization? So. You know, I want to see that.
Beta, Gamma, they're all over the place.
Yeah, I don't need that crap. Start to get me all upset. And not smart enough for that, Eric. But then again, you get this.
You weren't in a frat.
Again, no, I was not. You end up where the Brainiac AI, which has the stupidest emoji type thing in that too, that drove me nuts. But it's gonna get this Christopher. Hey, listen, you're fine. Get out there. We'll just say you did this, and it's like, no, I'm really having problems. I need help. No, you don't. Get out there. So he does go out, and it triggers him. But in the meantime, with all that, it's just, I don't know. I need more info here. I just need a
I agree.
little more
You want to know
info.
more about Absolute Superman, because even the idea where we talk, like, if you told somebody about Superman's powers in the Absolute universe,
Yeah.
I would try to go along the lines of, well, I think he's pretty much normal biology. It's just the suit that he wears gets solar powered to the point where that gives him powers, and also his cape is made up of Kryptonian red dust, which allows him to heal, do all this crazy stuff. And the thing is, I am not completely sure about it, so I would just keep, like, hemming and hawing off into nothingness, because I'd lose track.
Even at one point, like, Lois is there, and it's like, let me see, and the dust is there, and she's like, ooh, I like the dust. She's on the dust, the angel dust, because she's freaking over.
And he has
the top.
an AI named Sol who talks to him from his suit.
Yeah. I don't know that Superman's really going to love the idea that she's putting batons in guys' mouths, but that's just me, maybe. I'm a bit of a prude. But she is trying desperately to find him, and then he does find her. And this is where he shows up, and that's where you have the Omegas, Omega Prime in particular, say, "Oh man, you're here. You found us. Hey man, we're all with you. Together we can really change things. We can do this." And he's like, just boom, just shoves her aside, and then says to Lois, "Stop looking for me. Stop, prodding and doing this. Don't put a baton in my mouth."
Back, "No."
Yeah, and she's like, "I'll put it in your mouth." But yeah, and he's like, "Listen, I have nothing to say to you. She just wants to ask questions." She said, again, what you thought we were going to get some things. And even then, when she's talking at things, she even says at the beginning, like, "Hey," to the people, "Hey, I want to help him. He must be scared." She did get that play talking to him that he's not from Earth, that he might be scared. He might need some things. She's gone to some of these shelters that he's been in, but he's long gone. But again, some of the other things that involve all this is, how does his powers regen? Like, it's not just in the sun. He seems to have to like, there's a lot of stuff with him we need to know.
If I'm one of these people that she's interviewing, I am not giving up Superman because I do not trust her. She is using those freaking interrogation methods on me, trying to get on my good side. She's good copping me, and I don't like that shit.
That's the thing, though. Where's the bad cop? Like,
I trust good that cop, whisper in the storm that's going to break his wrath and murder all you people and enslave my people.
What she needs to do is take a video of her putting that baton where the sun don't shine.
You are so caught up on that.
I'm telling you, that would prove, because she's like, "I know you shouldn't trust me because Lazarus kind of a piece of crap." Yeah, that's why we don't trust you. Why would we? And why would we sell out the one guy who seems to be helping us out? It's more than just trusting Lazarus. It's the idea of selling out Superman. They ain't going to do that. Plus, I've seen what he could do. He get on that bad side of that guy.
Absolutely not.
Right? And with that haircut, who knows what the hell he'll do? That crazy as a haircut. Yes, he is. So he's there, and that's where you did have shots fired, and you end up, because of the Omega deal, the Peacemakers show up, and they're like, "Okay, and they play off the idea, 'Hey, we're here to protect you there, Lois.' And she's like, no, don't. And Superman, I do like this.
This interaction, though, when the Peacemakers show up to Lois trying to help, they're just trying to help out. They're doing their jobs.
Yeah.
It might as well be Bog Venus in this issue of Pablo, Poison
funny,
Ivy talking to Jenna from HR, just calling them idiots left and right.
Again, that it also reminds me of their just full out, like, Brainiac-esque of, "Hey, we're here to help you." "What do you mean?" "No, okay, we will help you." They're just escorting her away. And Superman, though, this is, of all this issue, we are at like the last couple pages. I like the idea where Superman's here and he just like looks over at them like, "You guys again? Like, I'm going to obliterate. I could destroy you. I could destroy you." And he doesn't. And that's one of the things, too, that Lois points out when she's yelling at her dad. And her dad's like, "You need protection and all this." And she says,
"Sounds like hippie shit to me."
Yeah, that's what they said about Manson. And then she ends up saying, "Well, out of all of this and all the problems he's caused, you know what his body count is? 0. He hasn't killed anybody. He doesn't do that." And Lane doesn't care. And then also, like, again, though, what skews everything then is the idea then he just switches off to, "Yeah, but them Omega Men, they'll cut you at the knees. Those bastards, they'll get you." And so they do get convoluted. I don't know who to root for.
Remember my baby girl? Remember when I used to be a tall man?
I'm 3 foot.
Daddy was so big.
It sucks. I can't reach up the top shelf. You can't get up.
Now, pardon me, baby doll. I gotta put on my cybernetic legs and take a walk on the beach and reminisce about the good old days.
And they go, "Hello, darling." I don't know why that made me laugh, but you end up where now, and I'll ask you this just as an aside. When Superman uses his freeze breath, do you automatically now think, "Oh, he's doing that because that's the least amount of energy"? Every time now, I think that.
They really just punched that in our head in the main continuity.
It ends up in the main continuity that it's been said so many times in like a really short amount of time that I'm like, oh, here we go. He's conserving energy, I guess,
but
because
also,
he does it.
in the grand scheme of things, when
Also,
you're
they
an
should die,
anti-kill
right?
kind of guy, no, like I don't know why they're still alive. Because
That's
the
what
idea
I'm
of
saying.
being
They should be dead.
frozen. Well, again, you're not being frozen solid like it's Captain Cold's gun,
I
or
don't
even
know.
my mind,
They
Mr. Freeze's
seem-
gun. It's like I do a freeze breath, and for some reason there's an iceberg around you, and hopefully you'll melt out before you run out of air.
Yeah, and you won't die of hypothermia. Plus, I did it in a way where I kind of whistled at one point and put my tongue somewhere so Lois doesn't get frozen in the middle. That's a really good freeze breath. I mean, he really can direct this in a way that he can control. But even then the one guy that they decide to taunt, like the one guy, like you could taunt seven of these guys, but you go up to the one
taunting
guy.
everybody, and he just happened to be there.
Well, also, like, I like that you have to have it so that you know it's him. He has that broken mask. He's a broken man, Eric.
Sure is
what he is. But, yeah, and then Jimmy's like, whoa, and then Superman gets away. She's like, oh, man,
I would not be surprised if they eventually turn this Christopher Smith into this universe's Metallo.
I just think he just goes completely, well, he's already completely bonkers. He's arrested, so
Whatever
it might be.
I'm saying that right now, because of who he is, he's talking about the idea they threw everything at him, it did nothing to him, he could take us apart, no problem whatsoever. He needs an upgrade to feel like a man again.
He does. Now you just have to find out that he's sexed up for Lois, and then you got it fully, right? You got the whole deal.
What?
But he's sexed up for Lois. He's going to get all jealous. So she ends up again, and he doesn't like people laughing at him, but for some reason he really likes to be like yelled at, and so she calls him a moron. Goes, hey, you moron! I lost Superman, and you let the Omega Men get away. Can you hear me in their popsicle brains? Does it hurt? And he's like, and I'm like, there she is again. Psychopath Lois. Like, this guy is freezing to death, and she's taunting him, and then says, I sure as hell hope it does. And then these people are like, yeah, get a picture of these assholes. I'm like, you guys deserve it. Like, stop it. Run. Get out of there. These people have guns.
These guys deserve it.
Well, you see these people come in and like, hey, somebody get a picture of this. You can't imagine the shit that they probably pulled while they're there frozen, like, body parts and stuff. Look at me. I'm taking a whiz on them and stuff like that. When these guys seemed like they were about to shoot Superman, right? I mean, you saw it. These guns are going to go off when this, they're all ready. They're ready to go. Don't taunt this guy. Get the hell out of there. Maybe like
now
chip
it's
a
the
little
victim's
bit.
faults.
Well, again, it's kind of still bullying. It's not as bad as what they're doing, but I mean, it is like the idea. If you were there and you were like, I don't even know, you could just be you and you get frozen. I go up and I'm like, take a picture of this. I'm like teabagging you might be pissed. You might be a little upset, and this guy's unhinged. So I don't know. I don't like the way that these people are treating this. Superman didn't do this.
Poor Christopher Smith is the hero of this.
Superman didn't do it though. He left. You don't teabag the guy. You don't do that shit. Like probably getting a hot dog. Look at this guy. I'm telling you, this guy's already raring to go. You're taunting him. And then you get where everybody's getting slapped and punched and prodded. You end up where Jimmy's like, pretty cool, huh? Slap right in the face. Take that, Jimmy. It's like the Batman Robin slap, but it's Jimmy here.
Is.
And that's where like his mask falls off. And again, I kind of got that it was Jimmy at this point. Maybe some people didn't, but when she's hey, are you hearing me, Olsen? And then he wows everybody. Can you call me Jimmy? Oh my goodness. But again, is the wow moment for this, should it be that, oh, it's Jimmy Olsen who took pictures? And that's no, what the wow moment should be is we find out.
That's the wow moment.
Well, that is, but it shouldn't be. What it should be is what the Martha was talking about last issue, and also give me more Superman. Superman comes in here, and what we've learned is he kind of likes to help the miners. He does a little, and even
the young people, right?
Yeah, I was going to say even the people in the mines, but he really likes the young people. Jimmy, one of them. But you end up where you don't know much about this Superman.
Be a pal one day.
And you can go with it, like even the idea that I could say, like, well, you can go with the idea that it's Superman. So, but this is different. It feels different already, but you're not expanding it to give us the real meat and cheese of it. So all we know is he's helping the miners, seemingly because that's kind of what Jor-El did. But the idea that it's mainly the miners that we've really seen, it's like, he has a soft spot for his daddy.
The abused working class.
They end up, and where I'll ask you is everybody like is Lazarus so big that they just pretty much abuse everybody? We don't know. Like is there somewhere they can go? Is this all there is? Can they not get other jobs? Do they have to taunt the Peacemakers when they're frozen by teabagging them? I don't know, Eric. Those are questions for later. But it just feels like there's just a lot missing. Not just like, oh, I want to know this.
There's a lot so here, but not a lot that you want to know about at this point in time for Absolute Superman.
Yeah, and that's the biggest problem probably is that Superman in 4 issues is not the main character. I mean, at points it's Krypton that's the main character. Now it's Lois in this issue. Character. Lazarus, these everything like that, and Superman just kind of pops in and out. You know,
for some reason, again, Lois is the main character. I still stick with Peacemaker for some reason.
Yeah, and even that was more. We know more about.
I'm saying it's the most interesting part of this issue.
Oh, I agree, and we know more about Christopher Smith almost than we do Superman. We really don't. What makes him tick, Eric? And in that, it's almost playing out now. It's in the day, but it almost feels like a Batman. Like Jason Aaron's trying to give you the myth of Superman. But he's there, and he's still. I want to know more about him. I want to know where he is and what he does.
We just finished up. We have a YouTube video out for Batman All-World #6 to finish up Jason Aaron's run on that whole thing, that story he wanted to tell. But the idea with this corporation, enslaving people for these mining, it pretty much seems like he's doing his Batman All-World story with Absolute Superman.
Yeah, and
Superman, a man from a world away, is going to come and liberate these people from the evil corporation, whether it be Black Sun Corporation or the Lazarus Corp.
And Joseph Wolf, and he actually likes that Superman's been a mystery, and he said he really likes this issue. I like this issue. What I like about it is more of what we get. You said it, Peacemaker. That's intriguing to me, and what's going on with Brainiac. But it is a Superman book, and it's not even like I'm saying that. Oh man, I want to know everything about Superman. I want to know anything about. We don't know anything. I mean, we really don't. I don't know what his MO is. I don't know where he lives. I don't know what he cares about. I don't know if there's more Kryptonian. Like, we know nothing. And it's
even the idea, I appreciate the world building we're doing here because it seems like it's more than any other book is doing in the Absolute universe right now.
Fine.
But I can't. But the problem with that
is, are we doing more world destroying with Krypton? We're doing both.
We're not doing that. World building on Earth, but the idea that you have the Lazarus Corporation, we're pontificating on what they're doing, where they're from. Like, I don't know enough about them even, but we have all these characters that are associated and they're just doing bad things.
We don't know what they're doing. And I'll tell you one of the things to say, and I'm glad that Joseph Wolf likes it. I know that this seems to be the least favorite book of them. I'm still intrigued. I still want to know more. And the big thing about this is I didn't really like the first issue as much as you. As it went on, I was incrementally liking it a little more. As I actually was going a little down with Wonder Woman, they kind of were joining. This one might take it a little lower. But one of the other things about Superman that I want to know, like the power set and things like that, it's so ambiguous of dust cape. And that dust cape seems like it could do anything, or it doesn't do anything, and it doesn't do anything here. No,
Jim, you don't understand. It does everything.
It seems to, except Frost Breath, that he does himself. But I kind of need to know more about that, and I want to know what his deal is. And it's just weird. And again, it's being told as almost like the myth of Superman, but the myth of a guy who's kind of there and then just disappears. And why does he? I know why he doesn't want to be found by Lazarus and whatnot, but it just seems like he's everywhere but nowhere. He's just an ambiguous deal. And when you get into books like these, the thing is, here's the thing: of all these things, I think that the Superman book in the regular continuity is the strongest of the Trinity here. So you still, and usually you have that marvel of the idea, and I don't want to go to the play of, well, I like this because I don't like that. But the Superman book's strong. And then you get in this, you want to know the differences. You want to know why you stick around and want to know the differences. And it just feels like the differences are just that Superman isn't around much. That seems to be that's the big thing.
Even the idea where it seems that he came to Earth as an adult, so he didn't grow up here. He doesn't have the connection to Earth as he would from a normal continuity. But you're not really seeing all that because all he's doing is saving people as a Superman would, just a little bit more on the down low.
And does he save everybody? It's such a weird play, but. The Peacemaker stuff, you could have just had a little more Superman. I still think this is
better than issue #4 of Absolute Batman, though.
Yeah, it still has that same feel, though. But again, that was just... But the problem is that Batman deal was let's go back. We've kind of seen that part of the Krypton throughout. It's just a weird series. Now, at this point, having this issue, I couldn't tell you that next issue we'll get any Superman, or will we get a ton of them, or whatnot. You're just all over the place. It doesn't have.
It's true. It's up in the air.
It doesn't have a lot of direction, and I think it needs to, like, maybe this issue.
Who are we going to focus on? Where are we going to focus on? When are we going to focus on? You never know.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that's intriguing, I guess. That kind of ends up making you, keeps you on your toes. Not General Lane, because he doesn't have toes, Eric. But the idea with this whole thing going on is it does make it so it keeps you, like, guessing. I don't know, though. 4 issues in, I wish that you nailed a little bit more down about Superman and then dealt with everybody, because you are playing Lois off of Superman, but we don't know a lot about Superman. And we also don't know, is Lois like a main character in Lazarus Corporation, or is she just like a local thing? And we don't really know a lot. And the Omega Men, I think, you could have let that simmer for a bit. I actually like the idea that we're getting the graffiti. I think he's adding that. And also, as I'll say, with Joseph, and he does say, and we don't talk a ton of stuff, but the art is really good. It really is. It's so good. So that is great. I'm going to tell you, Joseph Wolf is now a co-star here because he's talking a lot of good points. But the play of it is that just, and now I don't even remember. I have to ask Joseph. I forget what I was going to say. I had a really good point that I was going to say between your legs there. But the idea of this whole play, I just want to know. Oh, I know what it was. Again, it's just the thing I said. You have Superman. Everything does play off of Superman, but without knowing his deal, Lois could be totally, offline in the idea of, like, almost like being obsessed with him and thinking he's good. He may not, we don't know, but we kind of do because he's Superman. But it just is weird. But when you say about the Peacemaker becoming a Metallo type character, now that would be really cool. You know why that would be? You know why that would be really cool? And I'll give you credit for coming up with that, is because that would be something different, but developed fully in the universe. That's cool. Agreed. The idea of where that's
going to subvert your expectations.
And it'll also be, that's what you want to get to by the end. As we go further and further, you want to have things developed in not just, hey, there's Etta Candy. Like, again, we kind of rolled our eyes a bit with the stuff in Wonder Woman where it's just like, oh, here's my old friend Etta Candy and her sister. Oh, here's Barbara Minerva would really like this. She's into that. That kind of gets a little bit odd, but having something that would develop in a different way within universe, like if we ended up getting a cyborg Superman, or we end up getting Brainiac's kind of a weird deal already. But
even a cyborg Superman is a good idea for that, for even a Metallo or like a cyborg Superman, something along those lines to upgrade Christopher Smith to be something that can go up against. And obviously, Superman.
You say the idea, and you say about just Christopher Smith going as Peacemaker, the idea that Brainiac, he's probably going to end up like, we have to do something to combat this Superman. The Superman comes in and just pretty much, breathes on us, looks at us, and everybody's freaking out. But it even goes further where you get General Lane as almost the talk of, the old salts or the higher ups, even the American military and things like that. They're very concerned with the Superman, and things are being said
as they should be.
And things are being said that aren't really possibly true, but they're pushed. Right. Hashtag alien scum. I don't know. The idea that Lois kind of figuring out that he is an alien, but they have alien tech. There's a lot of stuff. Again, remember that was the thing too of them having extraterrestrial tech, and then there's
exactly.
There's so much
going
going
on.
Idea
where the Lazarus Corp has a red room, and you can make a cyborg out of him instead of Victor Stone.
Yeah, and Ange
or a cyborg Superman.
Ange and the things was saying more about like maybe he could end up being cyborg Superman, and again, both
Crenshaw.
Are cool. Yeah, that both would be
because
really
it's so close
Crenshaw.
to Henshaw, which is a funny little.
That is true.
Out there.
That is true. And now Crenshaw's everybody's
Crenshaw,
pissed.
He got his fingers broken. He's got a baton. In his
got
mouth.
a baton in his mouth. He's like, screw that. But now you have to make him a cyborg. But then again, Lane's almost halfway there. That again, you know what the funny thing is?
The cyborg Superman.
If we keep talking and do this, I think that's why you have Lane have those legs to just show you that they do have cybernetics to make.
We have the technology. We can make them better, stronger,
They're like
faster.
the $6 million man, the 6 cent men. But yeah,
$6 billion man now.
I'm telling you, I think Ange is on it. I really think Crenshaw, and they're gonna keep getting his name wrong because nobody. All these Peacemakers are treated like crap. But yeah, the art's great. It's just a little frustrating. It's a little frustrating with it. We're 4
You want
issues
more out
in.
of
I
this.
want more, but it's in a way that I feel like we're not getting the info. Not that I'm intrigued so much of saying, oh my God, that's cool. I want more. It's that I think we need more going forward. Maybe, just maybe we have to tighten it up a bit. Maybe put some things on the side and give us some. I expect next issue is just full out Krypton. And then we'll get that. But I hope
Boy,
that we.
I hope so.
Again, I want to see them as they take off and do these things. Because remember, they're about to leave at that point, and they're going to gather up some of their relatives and neighbors and cousins and things like that. So we'll see. Is there going to be a Supergirl? Is there the idea of this, that? Are they going to make the trip or not? I don't know. Because again, usually Supergirl follows later, right before. Well, we're at the point when Supergirl would be kind of leaving to go protect baby Kal, and then all things get wacky.
Going to happen. We have our Kryptonian arc for the L family that we're going to gather up everybody we can to get the hell off of Krypton at this point in time. We're going to start traveling in space, and all of a sudden there's going to be a problem because we're going to need that cryo sleep to make sure that we can take our travel and not age ourselves to death. And the only person who's going to get his baby, or young man Kal-El at this point, and everybody else is either going to become an old person or turn to dust by the time he reaches Earth.
Yep, and some people, even Jack Halsey, Jack is a cool guy, ends up talking about the idea of, like, he still likes these books. And he says, hopefully more titles added, they don't all fall off like what happened with the Marvel, and it has kind of fallen off. But again, this is the problem, and I'll give Jack the little deal that I'm worried about. The Ultimate stuff at Marvel, I think it's fallen off because they're waiting to get to this big thing of the Maker. This is the thing that's set. This kind of has a thing coming down the line too, but it's a little further down. They're not playing the idea of each. And in the Ultimate Universe, every issue seems to be like, we're just going to do, this is January. Now we're going to go with the month. And it seems like things get left behind. We don't get
we're 4 months into the Absolute Universe, and already in our main universe continuity, last week during the Superman Lex Luthor special, we had the idea that Mr. Terrific is trying to communicate with the new Absolute Universe that used to be the Elseworld.
Yeah. And
so we're already getting to the point where we know there's going to be some kind of conflict down the line because we have to figure out what this world is that Darkseid created through his energy.
Yeah. And just to shout out, Matt Fisher gave us a super chat and said that always rare to catch you guys live. Read that. I think he's shaming us so we don't do it enough. But he said read this listening to the Man of Steel soundtrack and loved it. So
nice.
Again, when we talk about things, and with it being live, you get a little more interaction to let people know. Because sometimes, I'll admit, I come off like I'm a real great guy, Eric, a real loving fella. Now, a lot of people end up like they're like, oh, this guy doesn't like things or whatever. But we do like when people like it.
Don't talk about me.
Well, you speak for fans. I just hope they like
Arrow fans. Can't help it.
In all this going on and stuff like that, the idea though is like, there's not a ton of comic fans anymore, and most of them are fighting with each other, and we don't get involved with that. We try to avoid that, but sometimes it's very hard not to, and you kind of get tossed in. At one point, I said there was a point where me and you were doing something. We had a video. I put something. This is way back when we didn't do a lot of videos and things like that. But I ended up putting up a review. And in the review, there were two people fighting of whether or not we were SJWs, commentating. Like they were fighting. And I'm like, we're kind of neither. We just like, and they didn't want to listen to me. They were fighting with each other. And I'm like, what is this? What is like? I felt, pretty important. They were trying to get our, but it wasn't that. It was like, here's this, because the minute that I tell people the characters I like, boy, they flip out. But then when we don't like it's just, it really gets to a point where it gets very tiresome. And I really like when people like books, and I like when they have their own opinion. And that's another thing that I will throw out there. And that this is the thing. Joseph Wolf is a Green Arrow fan and says you do speak for them, Eric. I can't like help the chili.
It's just how things turned out.
But what I do like, and I'll give everybody credit, and I say this a lot on the Slack and the things with the Get Fresh crew, we don't want people to think exactly how we think. We like when people like different. Me and you never agree. I think that's where it comes from, that we never agree really. And so they're like, screw it. I'm more with Jim. That Eric's a jerk. And I'm like, that's fine. But that
happens.
It doesn't seem to. Again, I trigger people. I did give you credit today. I was talking to some other people, and I did mention the idea, because I come off so crazed, and I do get emotional. And even with scores, I'll give a 1, I'll give a 10. I am passionate. But what ends up happening a lot is that people, I wear thin with people. Like, you say
Oh, I know.
something that you're like, oh, you're fat. But man, you've been doing this enough. But you just end up when sometimes we fight and people are like, man, I wouldn't have wanted to be there in between sections with you. I'm like, we don't even mention that shit.
Tell you, by the time that's over, it's like, all right.
I'm just screaming. I wait to see. Are you going to start yelling at me about serial killers? And when you don't, I'm fine. That's all I need. But you've gotten sick of me. You've gotten sick of me, but not enough like other people. But hopefully we're going to do more stuff live too. I do like doing this. I'm still learning the ins and outs, but I do like it. Maybe some other things. Even this week, we didn't do it live, but we did an extra YouTube-only video for the Batman Off-World. That's on the YouTube 6, right now. Finale. And again, I know that one of the things, one of the things that ends up where we do tend to do things a little different. We talk a lot. I mean, even this, we're almost at an hour. Most people will tell you that fails. It's not good. We're not.
And
real.
They'd be right.
We're not real good with that. I mean, at one point, if people don't realize, we had a 13-hour podcast each and every week. We never missed a week, and it was 13 hours one time. It was about like 10 to 12 most of the times for over a year.
My 30s. I don't know what happened to those.
Yeah, they were us talking about really bad books in the DCYOU is what happened. It was the worst, but we don't mind talking about the things, so I hope that people enjoy that. But I really like getting the comments and things like that. But yeah, thanks everybody. But with that, what is your score?
I'm saying for Absolute Superman, though, I'm still intrigued in this book. I want to know the ins and outs of this character. I just hope it doesn't progress at a snail's pace, because I feel like it's going to wear me down to the point where what's Absolute Wonder Woman doing? Because I care more about that than this, or Absolute Batman, or even when Absolute Flash and Green Lantern come out. I just don't want this to fall from the wayside because it took us damn time about it too damn long.
Martian Manhunter, Eric.
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, neither did I. Dennis Camp, that guy, he blocked us.
That's the worst part. I really want a good Martian Manhunter book, whether it's Absolute or main continuity, but it just doesn't seem to be in the cards.
No, that looks wacky, but things can surprise us. But I'm really looking forward to the Flash. I'm looking for again, once we get more, and that we're talking each week about these, maybe even doubling up, it'll be real fun. And I do like them. The idea, I'm not going to fake the funk. And what I worry about in this book is that some things that I want to know more about might be left behind, or like you said, it takes too long to get to them. And I really want a base. I really actually want to get to a point where I know, hey, this is what I could tell people why they should read it, why they should. And we're not really there yet. And I'll tell you, Batman's drifting away. Like all these books, like Batman was just over the top crazy. But you need a little more than that. It started, but that last issue it really needs to rebound. The Wonder Woman stuff, we just need to get this new arc, get things going, make it bigger and whatnot. But I'm intrigued by all these. I do like them. I think it's a cool thing to get involved with. And hopefully people continue liking them. Because I mean, I like doing this. I don't want to get to the point where everybody's like bailed and they hate it. So I like it. But what would you give this?
Ultimately, I'll give this a 6.5 out of 10. I think the art is great throughout, and with all the things that we're given this book, it's just weird to me that Peacemaker is the standout, for me at least, of this issue. Yeah. And that shouldn't be the case for an Absolute Superman book where you know little to nothing about the character.
Yeah, and again, I think that a lot of people, when they listen to this, some people haven't listened to a lot of things that we do. A 6.5 is not a horrible score. It might sound horrible to people who are used to seeing reviewers only give 8 and above. It's one of those where it needs some improvement, but we do like it enough and things intrigue us. I'm just a little worried. This is, again, I'm with you, 6.5. The idea with Wonder Woman, I ended up arguing with a guy, and I hope he's not mad at me or anything, but we started arguing because we liked the book, just not enough for him. I think it was an issue we gave an 8. And he's like, oh, my God, you guys are... And even at that, at the end, I'm like, we really like this series. You just need this. And the Tetracide isn't great. Where you get this off? Guy argued with me all week. All week. He was arguing that we were just too negative and things like that. And I think the art's great in this. I think it's really good. I just need a little bit more. I need it to round everything out. And I really want to see what that cliffhanger from last issue was. That's kind of the crazy deal. So with all that, thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. And especially thank people in the chat here, especially Matt Fisher, who gave us a
thank you very much.
So thank you. That's one of our first we've ever gotten. So that's pretty cool. Pretty darn cool, Eric. And as we go forward, we may do some more things, as I said. But if you're not aware, we do have a weekly podcast. Those old fangled podcast things that people used to do, right? And we have it every week. We've never missed a week. Now, last week, it was funny. Last week, we did have a show, but it was Patreon only. And that just leads me to let everybody know, if if you do want to support us, it's not even just support us. Actually, if you want a lot more shows, you could go to our Patreon. One of the things that we do each and every week is we have a Patreon spotlight where we pick 2 books, or we don't pick. We talk about 2 books that are picked by the badasses of the Get Fresh crew. And they ended up picking Poison Ivy and Birds of Prey this week. And I don't know how many people like Birds of Prey. I see a lot of people talking about how great it is. That
book of the year. What are you talking about, Jim?
My book of the rear is what it is. Yeah, take that, Kelly Thompson. And also the Poison Ivy, which you do like.
Wonder Woman, Kelly Thompson.
you like Poison Ivy more than me. Yet when we talk, we end up with the same score somehow. It's weird. But those 2 we talked about, it was about an hour and 20 minutes. Sometimes that show goes to like 2 hours. That's exclusive to the Patreon. Again, patreon.com/weirdscience. That's in the description as well as other shows. I do shows with Gray, who was in the chat. Me and him do a Grant Morrison podcast. I end up doing a Hellboy podcast. We got a Mark Miller podcast, a Walking Dead comics podcast, a lot of stuff, and also an exclusive indie podcast that we didn't have one this week, and I don't know if Zach ended up forgetting that we were doing it, but he never got a hold of me. And when he does, I always assume he's busy. So I don't know if
Look,
he
it's
was,
Super Bowl week. He's busy.
That is true. He ended up quitting in the Slack, because you can join the Slack when you're on the Patreon. He quit the sports channel, and he says this to me. I still don't know if he knows what he was saying, but he's like, I had to quit the sports section of the Slack chat because everybody's talking about those stupid Eagles, and I hate them. I'm like, what you say?
That's good. That's good comedy
what you say right there? I was like, really? Like those Eagles, huh? And he's like, yeah, I hate them. I can't stand them. I'm like, all right, I don't know what you're talking about here, because me and Eric are both from the Philadelphia area. So just a shout out to the Eagles. I ended up doing a Super Bowl preview show earlier. And people, I don't even know where it's going to show up or whatnot. But I ended up,
that's good promotion.
That's great. But I did end up picking the Eagles, though I'm worried. I think it's going to be a close game, but I ended up there. I said 24-20 Eagles. We'll see. I don't like the Chiefs, and I don't. There's not a lot of hype for the Super Bowl this year. I think people are kind of sick of both teams, but we're not sick of them. I'm greasing up the polls, Eric. Hashtag.
I'm telling you, you say we're not. I'm probably going to watch the 1990 USA Swamp Thing TV show during the game.
You son of a bitch.
I don't care about football. I haven't watched football in years at this point.
I'm going to be like, and then I'll get upset. But I did end up at Aldi. They have a big, giant square pizza you can get, right? It's big, giant square. You know what they call it? The Sasquatch, Eric. It's back in the day. It's doing the Bigfoot. Bigfoot. It was crazy. Yeah. And I was like, that's really cool for them. And I'm like, do they know that they're doing that or whatnot? But that's what I got. I got a huge-ass pizza that I'm going to be eating. And I just hope that the Eagles pull through. One guy got a hold of me on Twitter and said he's not even from the U.S. He doesn't really care for American football, but he's rooting for the Eagles because he likes it. I'm like, that is cool. I'm
rooting for the Eagles, too. I'm just not going to watch the game.
Yeah, look at you. Not even for the commercials, huh? You're one of those guys. You go to the Super Bowl party, you're in the kitchen with the ladies. Drinking your wine spritzers.
I was invited to a Super Bowl party. My girlfriend Jess is like, well, like we could always just sit out in there and play cards. I'm like, I don't want to play cards.
Play cards?
I'm staying home.
Hell, it's the Super Bowl. It's the Eagles. I know that you're not as. I don't
want to have any conversation with people.
Yeah, that is true. You're out there playing cards, strip poker, maybe. But that
really
that is it. Go Eagles. But thanks everybody, especially on the live chat. And again, if you're listening to this on the replay, if you're listening to this as a podcast, we end up recording every time there is a absolute book out every Friday, 7:15 Eastern Standard Time, PM. That is, Eric, not AM, PM Eastern Standard Time, the only time that counts. So with all that, Eric, what do we say at the end of the absolute podcast?
We're closing the Omega portal, and until next time, keep it absolutely weird.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Boom. Yeah. See, somebody saying go Eagles. We're still on the live chat. I stopped the podcast part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
As always, I'm going to go make... and also, you got me running scared because when we were talking on the Patreon
what's that, Teeny?
Spotlight, I want to tell everybody that you called me the Teeny Howard of podcasting because I was talking about food.
About food.
I was.
And eating.
I did talk about the pizza. You
can't help
I
it.
was going to tell you, I was going to make a shepherd's pie.
It's the most
earlier.
important thing in
didn't.
your life.
It is. I sit there, I'm like, what am I eating?
You've
That's
turned
it.
into Royer.
It might be. The idea of like, if I'm not eating, I'm thinking about the next, because I'd like to make fancy meals. I might make a pork pie tonight. I was thinking.
I don't even know what that is.
It's got pork and it's a pie. That's what it is. It's good stuff. But yeah, I think I might do that. I'm not.
If I got to join into this, I bought some sweet Italian sausage earlier today.
No.
I can't wait to have that for breakfast or lunch tomorrow.
Oh my! I actually have that. What I was gonna have is like a bangers and mash type thing, because I do have some mashed potatoes and I do have some sausage. But I don't know. I really want to eat that pizza now. But I figured I'd wait.
Look, just eat the pizza and also go and get another one.
And that I could do that, though. Also, it's past Aldi's time. They close at 8, so I don't
have a super.
I knew you were gonna say that. I'll kill you. I did want to go, and I forget what I was gonna get. There was something I was gonna get there, but everything's expensive now. So crazy. Yeah. Because a dozen eggs I hear like $50. I can't afford that.
I don't like eggs.
The weird thing again is my dad, as a kid, I told you this, where I would only eat the egg whites, but I just didn't like the yolk. It had nothing to do with health.
You had a fad going on in the 80s.
Well, yeah, I started it. So I ended up where he would yell at me because I didn't eat the yolk. He's like, a dozen eggs costs $13. I think he was a time traveler.
He knew his young boy was an idiot.
And I was. I didn't know. I'm like, oh my goodness. But then again, I'm like, well, what the fuck does it matter if I eat the yolk? Like, that doesn't make it cheaper or whatever.
Half of it.
Yeah. He doesn't like that.
It's just like your kids who eat half of something and throw the
rest
they
in the throw it
garbage.
away. But that's the thing is, I'm eating a full
Are you saving
meal.
the yolks?
No, but I'm eating a full. At least I'm eating the
Here
egg.
you go, Daddy. I left you the yolk.
What it would be is the idea. Oh, you got me a cheeseburger. I take the cheese off and eat the burger. I'm still eating. They just take a bite of a whole pizza, 8 pieces, and they take one bite and throw the rest away.
Ew.
And yeah. Or they get my pizza, but they don't even offer to me. I'll certainly eat.
That's just one of those things. The idea where each generation is worse than the previous, and you have to deal with the consequences of you being a terrible child. So your children are going to be even worse than you were.
I guess so. They get DoorDash, and what I mean is that the food comes to the door. They dash upstairs and don't give me shit. Is what happens, and then start bitching. Rafe actually, right before we started, said he needed $15 for gas, and then, but he said, because I want to take Logan for dinner. Logan walks right by me while he's messaging me this. I said, Logan, you going to dinner with Rafe? He's like, fuck no, I'm going to the Y. What is this? And then it's a lie. That's all it is.
Of course it is. It's always a lie.
I know. It's the worst. But that is it. Thank you, everybody.
You seal yourself up in your little studio, the other son built for you, and never come out.
I'm here right now. I think I'm stuck. Though it has that window, I could shimmy my ass out.
No, that's what I do. Because there's somebody waiting for you on the other side.
There probably is. Also, I'd have to leap over the computers and stuff. It'd be very odd. But I actually don't mind this, phone booth that I'm recording in right now. And
TARDIS.
I'm not. Yeah, it is. But it's smaller on the inside. But you also,
it's weird.
I know I haven't changed anything. Probably still has. I'm used to the sound now. I don't hear that echo as much. But
Actually, I don't think I hear it as
much.
That's
what
either.
I'm saying. I didn't do anything. I just think maybe I adjusted. But my mic, I got a problem.
Maybe.
I don't feel great. But we'll.
I still hear myself on your side way more than I did
No,
before,
the one point I yelled and I could hear myself, but that kind of works its way through. That's just the stuff. That's the how they make the sausage talk. So thanks everybody as always. And I didn't even check.
Weekend.
Actually, before we go, just as a deal, is there a book next week? I always think that I should get that ready.
Absolute Batman next week.
I hope that there is, because there was this delay. I'm looking as well when you look, but just so we can let everybody know that indeed we will be.
Yes.
Okay.
February 12th, 125, Absolute Batman #5.
Cool. So we'll be talking about that. So hopefully everybody enjoyed themselves tonight. We'll join us again next Friday, and we'll have some fun. So thanks,
Valentine's
everybody.
Day, Jim. You're going to make me record Absolute Batman on Valentine's Day?
Yeah. That's the problem. We do say line, but we had that one that we did ahead of time. So if you have big plans on your Valentine's Day, we will see. But I don't have any plans. So thanks, everybody, as always. And we will talk to you all later.